You probably know them best as a maker of TVs, but TCL is so much more than just that. And here at IFA 2019, the company is ready to unveil its first globally available TCL branded smartphone. It's called the TCL Plex. And unfortunately, despite being teased for a long time, this isn't a foldable phone. Remember, we saw at MWC, the company had set up at its booth repeated folding demos of what it had as foldable phone prototypes. That's unfortunately not what we're here to see at IFA 2019. However, the TCL Plex is very interesting in its own way. The specs here aren't revolutionary. This is very much a mid-range device in terms of the guts. But what is really interesting is the price. Sticking to TCL and its family of brands practice for the past few years, this is a very, very affordable phone for what it offers. The TCL Plex will be available in some European countries in October for 329 euros. And for that, you're getting a very premium looking and feeling phone. This is a 6.53-inch LCD display with a cutout at the top left to house the 24 megapixel selfie camera, and it looks really, really good. TCL has a lot of expertise in displays, and that's also why they were able to put in such a good panel while keeping the cost low. The other things you'll notice about this phone are the triple camera setup on the back. This is a combination of a 48 megapixel primary sensor, a wide angle camera with a 123-degree viewing angle, as well as a low light shooter, which has pixel size of 2.9 microns, which is pretty huge. However, of course, that megapixel count has to be much lower at just 2 megapixels. What I found really cool was that in the camera app itself, there is a special mode that lets you see what all three of these sensors are seeing at the same time. So if not for some sort of use, at least it's fun to look at. Below this triple camera array on the back sits a fingerprint sensor. So for those of you who are hoping for an in-display fingerprint reader, that's not here because this is LCD, not AMOLED. But for a $350-ish phone, it's still got one, which is nice. The other big thing about the TCL Plex is that it introduces the world to the idea of the TCL UI. Now, it's not a lot different from Android. It's basically a launcher with some tweaks in terms of the interface and a lot of dedicated apps. One of them is called Next Vision, and it basically is a visual engine that helps to turn all videos that you play on this panel HDR friendly. TCL couldn't say that this was necessarily compatible with, say, an HDR10 standard, but it's pretty close. There is some sort of HDR at work here. It's just not officially certified. Another dedicated app as part of TCL UI is the Smart Key setting that lets you map a function to this button on the left side of the phone. This is an idea we've already seen explored on the BlackBerry Key 2 phones. It's basically there to make shortcuts a bit more convenient for you. And by default, pressing on it once will launch the Google Assistant. There's also a TCast tool here, which by its name sounds like a Chromecast competitor, but actually really is more like a YouTube type of service that houses a bunch of videos, but also lets you stream some of these clips to your TCL branded TV. The company's executives told us that this isn't meant to be a proprietary system. It's really meant to kind of unify TCL's smart home products. So they have TVs, they make appliances like washing machines too. So ultimately the idea is that TCL's smart home ecosystem and its mobile products like the TCL Plex will work seamlessly with each other. And that's also why there is a TCL Plus app in the phone. As part of the TCL UI, you create a TCL account and then sign into it on, say, the phone and your TV and your washing machine, and all of your information will be shared more easily. We haven't actually seen any of this transfer of information just yet, but this is a compelling promise because TCL, as its company's execs will tell you, is the only company out of China to be able to actually make this many devices within the vertical. It's got smart home products, it's got a mobile phone now. So the idea sort of is that it's kind of like the Samsung of China. TCL also teased a few other concepts it's working on. For example, a phone with a waterfall style display, which we sort of already saw Oppo push out a prototype of earlier this year. This model wasn't actually working, but it is an example of how TCL's panel expertise could serve it well in the mobile world in the future. Going back to the TCL Plex for a minute, this thing has a 3820 milliamp hour battery under the hood, which will charge back up to 50% in about 32 minutes thanks to TCL's own fast charging and quick charge 3.0 support. The company wasn't able to give us an estimated runtime, so we'll really have to test it out in the real world to see what that translates to. And for those of you who are still using wired headphones of your own, good news, there is a 3.5mm headphone jack. I'm a little disappointed that it's running on a Snapdragon 675 processor, but hey, it costs only about 330 euros. Now, this phone isn't going to come to the US, so there's no real point converting that into our currency for you, but TCL did say it means to make more phones, and it will bring some phones to the US in the future, so that's something we can look forward to. In the meantime, stay tuned to Engadget.com for all of the news out of IFA 2019.